Okay, so you want to own a self-storage facility. Buy a patch of cheap land somewhere on the edge of town, put up rows of metal boxes with roll-up doors, install a gate and a camera, and rent out empty space to people who own too much stuff. No product to buy, no inventory to spoil, nothing to cook, nothing to serve, nothing to fix. You are literally selling air behind a locked door. It sounds almost too boring to be a real business, and that is exactly why it is one of the most quietly profitable things a person can own. Because self-storage is not really in the business of storing objects. It is in the business of selling something far stranger and far more valuable. It sells the permission to not decide. Let me show you what I mean, because once you see this mechanism, you will never drive past those rows of orange doors the same way again. Start with the moment a customer appears. Nobody wakes up excited to rent a storage unit. Nobody dreams about it. People arrive at self-storage in the middle of a problem. They are moving and the new place is smaller. A relative died and the house has to be emptied by the end of the month. A marriage ended and half a home has to go somewhere. A business closed, a child moved out and left a room full of a childhood. In almost every case, the customer is standing in front of a pile of objects with a question they do not want to answer, which is, what do I actually do with all this? And here is the crucial thing. That question is not about logistics. It is about emotion and about identity and about loss. Deciding to throw away your late mother's furniture is not a chore, it is an act. Deciding that you will never again need the tools from the business that failed means admitting the business failed. Deciding to get rid of the boxes from the marriage means the marriage is really over. These decisions are heavy. They take time and courage that nobody has in the middle of a move, and then someone offers you a way out. For a modest monthly fee, you do not have to decide anything at all. You can put it all in a metal room, lock the door, and postpone the entire question indefinitely. That is the product, not space. Postponement. Now watch what happens to the economics of that, because this is where it gets beautiful and slightly unsettling. The customer signs up thinking in weeks, just a few months, until things settle down. Almost everyone who rents a unit believes they are renting it temporarily, but the decision that put them there was never made, and it does not make itself while the door is closed. Nothing in that unit gets easier to deal with. If anything, it gets harder, because now the objects have been out of sight for a year, and dealing with them means reopening a chapter they closed. So the months keep passing, and a business that expected to be paid for 3 months quietly gets paid for 3 years. This is the single most important number in the entire industry, the average length of stay, and it is far longer than customers ever intend. There is a well-known and quietly devastating fact about this business. For a meaningful share of customers, the total rent they have paid eventually exceeds the value of everything inside the unit. People pay for years to store furniture they could replace for less than 1 year of rent. And when you first hear that, it sounds like proof that customers are irrational. But they are not being irrational at all. They are paying for exactly what they came for. Not the sofa, the postponement. The sofa is not the asset. Avoiding the decision is the asset, and it is worth real money to them month after month. Now let us build the business, because the physical side is almost comically simple compared to any other industry we have looked at. First, the land. And unlike almost every other business, self-storage wants bad land. It does not need a beautiful location. It does not need foot traffic, or a nice view, or a wealthy neighborhood. It needs to be within a reasonable drive of where people live, close enough that visiting is not a mission, and that is it. Cheap land on the edge of town, near a highway, on an awkward plot that nobody else wants, is perfect. Then the building, and here it is barely a building at all. Rows of single-story metal units with concrete floors, roll-up doors, a fence, a gate, lighting, and cameras. Compare that to what we have looked at before. A casino needs billions. A vineyard needs decades. A nightclub needs a sound system worth a house. A storage facility needs a slab, some steel, and a lock. The construction is so standardized it is almost like assembling furniture at scale. Then the operations, and this is the part that makes owners fall in love. Think about what this business does not have. There is no inventory to buy, so no money is trapped in stock. There is nothing perishable, so nothing spoils or expires. There is no product to make, so no supply chain. There are almost no employees, because a single small office, or increasingly just a keypad and an app, can run a whole site. There is no need to be open at night. Nobody has to cook, serve, entertain, or persuade. The customers do all the work themselves. They load their own boxes. They carry their own furniture. They lock their own door. store. And the physical space, unlike a restaurant table or a hotel room, does not need to be cleaned between customers, does not wear out in any meaningful way, and does not go out of fashion. A metal box is a metal box. It will be exactly as good in 20 years. So you have a business with high revenue per square meter, extremely low operating costs, almost no labor, and a customer base that renews itself automatically every month while doing all the physical work for free. That is why the numbers on a well-run facility are so attractive. Now, here is the second mechanism, and it is the one that turns a good business into a machine. The price you charge is not really limited by what the space is worth. It is limited by how annoying it would be to leave. Think about it from the customer's side. You get a letter saying your rent is going up by a noticeable amount next month. In almost any other business, you would shop around and switch. But switching here means renting a van, taking a day off, finding help, physically hauling every heavy object out of one metal box and into another metal box somewhere else, and then unpacking your emotional baggage into a new location. The cost of leaving is not the price difference. The cost of leaving is a weekend of hard labor and a confrontation with everything you were avoiding, so most people simply pay the increase. This is one of the most powerful forms of pricing power that exists in any industry. It is not built on brand loyalty or quality or love. It is built on friction. The furniture is heavy and the memories are heavier, and both of those facts appear on the balance sheet as revenue. And notice how elegantly this pairs with the first mechanism. The reason the customer is there is that they did not want to make a decision. Moving out requires making that exact decision, plus doing manual labor. So the same emotional weight that filled the unit also keeps it filled at a higher price every year. The business is built on a beautiful loop where the customer's reluctance is the product, the retention, and the pricing power all at once. Now, what about the industry many people have heard about, the auctions? Because everyone knows there are shows about buying abandoned storage units, and it makes the business sound like a treasure hunt. Here is the honest version. When a customer stops paying, the facility cannot simply keep their belongings, and it cannot simply throw them away either. There are legal processes, notices, waiting periods, and eventually, in many places, a public sale of the contents to recover the unpaid rent. That is where the auctions come from. But understand what an auction actually represents to the owner. It is not a jackpot, it is a failure. Every auctioned unit is a customer who stopped paying, months of lost revenue, a legal process that costs time and money, and a unit that has been sitting there earning nothing while the process runs. The owner is not hoping to find gold. The owner is trying to clear a non-paying box so a paying customer can move in. The romance of the treasure hunt belongs to the buyers in the crowd. For the business, an auction is just an expensive way to take out the trash. Now, this business is not magic, and there are real risks, and they are almost the opposite of what you would expect. The risk is not fire, and it is not theft, and it is not the economy. The main enemy of a storage facility is the empty unit next door. Because here is the thing about a business with almost no operating costs. Once the site is built and the loan is being paid, the difference between a full facility and a half-empty one is enormous, and it goes almost entirely to the bottom line either way. There is no ingredient cost to save when a unit sits empty. There is no staff to send home. The costs are fixed, the revenue is not, and that means occupancy is everything. And this is exactly why the danger is so specific. Because these facilities are cheap and fast to build, whenever an area looks profitable, more of them appear. There is no secret recipe, no exclusive license, no rare skill required. If your town has strong demand and rising rents, someone will notice, buy a nearby plot, and put up their own rows of metal boxes. Now there are two sites competing for the same slow-moving customers, and the only weapon either of them has is price. In a business where the entire model depends on being able to raise prices, a market can go from wonderfully profitable to painfully crowded in a couple of years, purely because the barrier to entry is a concrete slab and some steel. So the real skill in this industry is not operating the site. It is choosing the location, understanding exactly how many boxes the surrounding population can absorb, and getting there before everyone else does. The building is easy. The judgment is the hard part. Now, let us talk about the deeper thing this business is really built on, because it is bigger than boxes and land. Self-storage is a business that grows on the exhaust fumes of modern life. Think about what has to be true for a whole industry of empty metal rooms to exist. People have to own more objects than their homes can hold. Homes have to be getting smaller or more expensive relative to the amount of stuff people accumulate. People have to move often and move fast, with less time to sort and decide. Families have to be spread out, so when someone dies, there is no big family house with an attic to absorb their belongings. And crucially, objects have to be cheap enough to buy easily, but feel too valuable or too meaningful to throw away. Every one of those those forces is a feature of the modern world. That is why this industry grew from almost nothing into a very large one within a few decades. Not because anyone dreamed of renting a metal box, but because the way we live keeps producing the exact problem that self-storage solves. And when you look at the customers closely, you stop seeing a business about objects at all. Because those units are not really full of furniture. They are full of moments. There is a unit somewhere holding a nursery because the child grew up and no parent can be the one to throw away the crib. There is a unit holding an entire kitchen from a family home that was sold when the last parent died, still packed exactly as it came out of the house, paid for monthly by 3 siblings who cannot agree and cannot bring themselves to open it. There is a unit full of professional equipment from a business that closed years ago, kept because keeping it means the story might not be over. There is a unit with the furniture of a marriage inside it, paid for by one person who is not ready to see it in a new home and not ready to see it gone. Every locked door on that long metal corridor is a decision someone has not yet made, and the business collects rent on all of them. That is the machine. So now stand back and look at the whole thing at once. Go to one of these places on a quiet weekday afternoon. It is one of the least dramatic scenes in commerce. A long row of identical metal doors, a concrete lane, buzzing lights, a camera on a pole, absolute silence except for one door somewhere rolling up, and someone standing in front of their own belongings, looking at them for a few minutes, then rolling the door back down and driving away, having decided nothing at all. And every single one of those silent doors is generating money, every day, with no employee, no product, no inventory, and no conversation. Nothing is happening in that corridor, and it is one of the most reliable revenue streams in real estate. Because here is the truth at the center of it. Every other business sells you something you want. Storage sells you relief from something you do not want to face. It is the only business where the product improves the longer the customer fails to use it. A restaurant needs you to come back and eat. A gym needs you to come back and train. A storage unit needs you to never come at all, to forget it is there, to let the monthly payment become invisible, like a small tax on your own past. So when you buy a self-storage facility, you are not buying land, and you are not buying steel, and you are certainly not buying boxes. You are buying a very reliable prediction about human beings, that we will keep accumulating more than we can hold, that we will keep confusing objects with the memories attached to them, and that when the moment comes to decide what to let go of, most of us, most of the time, will do the one thing that feels easiest. We will pay a small amount every month to put the decision off until later, and later will never come. That is the entire business. A row of locked doors, quietly earning money from everything we cannot bring ourselves to throw away.